Have you ever stopped and wondered what your mind actually looks like? I mean, we've got maps for pretty much everything cities, star systems, even the human genome. But what about that unseen world inside our own heads? We tend to fall back on simple metaphors, like an iceberg for the unconscious. But what if there's a more precise, a more radical way to map the very structure of our psyche? And that's the big question we're tackling today. How in the world do you visualize something as abstract, as complex, as consciousness, the self, and the unconscious? It honestly seems impossible, right? Like trying to draw a feeling. But a truly wild connection between psychoanalysis and a very strange branch of mathematics offers a startling answer. So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the psychoanalytic idea of a divided self. Then we'll take a sharp turn into the bizarre world of topology. We're talking the geometry of rubber sheets. And then we'll see how these two fields, which seem totally unrelated, come together to model everything from our own desires to the incredible experience of spiritual possession. All right, so where do we even begin this quest for a map of the mind? Well, for over a century, psychoanalysis, from its founder Sigmund Freud all the way to the radical French thinker Jacques Lacan, has been trying to draw exactly that, a structural map of the human psyche. See, thinkers like Lacan came along and argued that this simple, unified I that we feel we are, it's kind of an illusion. Instead, our sense of self, what he called the subject, is constantly being shaped and even split apart by forces outside of our control. Just think about it. The very language you speak shapes the thoughts you're able to have. So in that sense, you aren't some solid, independent thing, but more of an effect of a much larger system. Okay, get ready for a hard left turn. What if the best tool to understand this divided mind wasn't a microscope or some deep philosophical text, but a branch of mathematics that, at first glance, honestly looks like a child's game? Let's start with a classic riddle. Take a look at these two objects. They seem totally different, right? Different shape, different size, different purpose. But to a certain kind of mathematician, a topologist, they are fundamentally the exact same thing. Any ideas why? Well, the answer is in this field called topology, which, get this, doesn't care about length or angles or rigid shapes at all. It only cares about the essential structure. Imagine the donut is made of clay. You could squish it and stretch it into the shape of a coffee cup without ever tearing it or gluing new bits on. The one thing that stays the same is that single hole, the one in the middle of the donut, which becomes the handle of the cup. For a topologist, that single shared hole makes them identical. It's a geometry of pure connection. So how does this stretchy, hole-obsessed math connect back to the mind? Well, this is where Jacques Lacan made his absolutely mind-bending leap. He suggested that this strange geometry of rubber sheets was the perfect way to model the structure of the human subject he was trying to describe. Lacan started with the torus. Yep, our good old donut shape. He proposed that this surface, with its big hole in the middle, could actually represent the fundamental structure of our psyche, not just as a cute metaphor, but as a formal, structural model. And in this model, the hole is everything. It's the most important part. For Lacan, this isn't just empty space. This hole represents a fundamental lack, a core incompleteness that defines every single one of us. It's the engine of our desire. It's the very thing that makes us want and seek and strive for things. And that little something that's supposed to fill the hole, the true cause of all our desire, is what Lacan called objet a perpetually out-of-reach thing that we are always chasing. So where does a hole like that even come from? According to Lacan, it comes from language. The second we start using words, we get cut off from some kind of pure direct reality. The word tree isn't the actual tree, right? And in that little gap, a void opens up. This fundamental split that language creates is the hole in our being, a void that we spend our entire lives trying to fill with meaning. But hey, we're not just a single, lonely donut floating in space. Lacan went further, modeling our relationship with the world using two interlinked tori. One represents us, the subject. The other represents what he called the other. That's the entire system of language, culture, and social rules we're born into. Our desire, that central whole, is completely tangled up with the demands and desires of this other. Okay, I know, this all sounds incredibly abstract. Donut-shaped minds, holes of desire, it's a lot. But what if we could take this bizarre topological model and actually use it to understand a profound, real-world human experience? Well, that's exactly what a fascinating Brazilian doctoral thesis decided to do. Researchers used Lacanian topology
to analyze the Afro-Brazilian religion of Umbanda, and specifically to model the experience of a medium during spiritual possession. The whole goal was to map out that seamless transition between identities.
Now, the usual way we think about possession is that you've got two separate minds fighting for control over one body. But topology gives us a totally different picture. It suggests that the medium and the spirit aren't two separate things at all, but that they actually become a single, continuous, and much more complex surface. To model this state, the researchers had to turn to an even stranger topological object, the Klein bottle. It is a truly bizarre shape. Imagine a bottle where the neck curves back on itself, passes through the side of the bottle without making a hole, and connects back to the inside. The result is just mind-bending. You get a shape that has only one surface. A Klein bottle literally has no inside or outside in the way we normally think about them. It's just one continuous surface. An ant could walk along the surface and end up on what you thought was the inside without ever crossing an edge. And this makes it the perfect model for the medium's experience, where the boundary between their own personal identity, their inside, and the identity of the spirit, the outside, completely dissolves. They become one continuous psychic entity. So, what's the big takeaway from all of this? This whole journey through psychoanalysis, donut math, and spirit possession, it isn't just some intellectual exercise. It points to a profound truth about you. Lacan's really radical point is that the other isn't just society or the people around you. It's the very fabric of language and culture that literally builds your consciousness. The thoughts you consider your most private, your most innermost secrets, are structured by a system that was here long before you ever were. Your inside is fundamentally built from the outside. And what this all suggests is that the powerful feeling we all have of being a separate, contained individual, like a little sphere with a clear inside and a clear outside, that feeling might just be a topological illusion. The true shape of our mind might be much more like that Klein bottle, where the boundary between self and other, between inside and outside, is not nearly as solid as it feels. This model really challenges our most basic idea of what it means to be a person. It suggests we aren't these little self-contained captains of our own ship, but instead we are surfaces that are twisted and shaped by the world we live in. And it leaves us with this one final, dizzying question. If there's no clear boundary, where does the world stop and where do you actually begin?